Hello everyone, my name is Shahid Islam. I'm CEO of SD Innovation. I run a blog agency.managecoder.com where I share my knowledge how to grow your software development company and agency. We are doing a series about US perspective where people from Southeast Asia can grow their agency. So today I have a special guest, Mr. Azadul Haq. He is the CEO of Max Group Power. And welcome, Azad. Thank you for joining.
Hello,
Can
how
you,
are you?
good. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and the background?
I'm Azadul Haq. I'm the CEO of Max Group Power, as you mentioned. I am actually an American. I do work in Bangladesh. I'm based in Houston, Texas. I've been living there since '82. I'm an electrical engineer from there. I work there mostly in technology area. I used to work in NASA. Then I worked in energy sector for about 20 years. But now I'm working in Bangladesh, mainly in doing some EPC project, engineering projects. I do have managed two power plant, and also I have about five projects running in Rupur nuclear power plant. That's what I'm supervising right
Thank you. Thank you. The reason we have known each other for a long time and we've been talking about the difference between Bangladesh and US culture, right? Since you have spent majority of your life in US, you can give us some of these question I have it for our audience. So, Ajat, we did talk about the communication and today's our main discussion around communication. And I think my first question would be that when you move back to Bangladesh and running a company, what are the things you have noticed that, from US, what is the difference in Bangladesh? Because we are telling our whoever is listening to this podcast that they need to understand US perspective more. And communication is a very important factor. So what are your advice to all those that what are the three areas they need to look into on communication?
now. Well, like you mentioned, communication is key because if you miscommunicate, then you're actually giving information. Maybe the message that you want to give, you're giving them the wrong impression of what you really want to express. So communication is key. What I found out in most of the meetings and the communication in Bangladesh and somewhat in America also that I have seen. So I have kind of jot down three things. One is the preparation or prepared or unprepared meeting, or what I call is clarity of thought. I'll cover that. Second is pronunciation. And then the third is the cultural sensitivity about communication. So let's talk about prepared and unprepared communication. In a business meeting, especially in the software industry or in engineering sector where we talk, especially when you have technical discussion, it is almost a mandatory to prepare for the meeting or to prepare for the communication. Now, it doesn't always have to be a verbal communication. It could be in writing, it could be in presentation, it could be verbal, it could be in a meeting, it could be in telephone communication. The message that we want to give to our client, it needs to be thought about. It needs to be very clear. Now, in a presentation or a written form, sometimes it is easy because you can revise your presentation, right? But when you're speaking in a meeting or when you're actually communicating with somebody verbally, it should be brief, it should be meaningful, and it should be something that you know what you're going to talk about. Otherwise, what happens is people who are really busy, if they find out after talking to somebody for maybe half an hour or 1 hour that there is not really any gist in the meeting, there is nothing specific that you're asking question. A lot of time people always say their part of it, but they have never asked a question to the client or communicated something because they were not ready for the meeting. They just went into the meeting and started, talking. So it makes a big difference. So first thing is before any meeting in business meetings, it is better to be prepared, whether it's it doesn't always have to be formal like a meeting agenda and format, things like that. But in our head we need to know, I'm walking into this meeting, I want to find out these three information, or I want to give these three few information, and this is the way I'm going to present myself. But to be able to do that, there is a prerequisite, and it's what I call is a clarity of thought. What I'm going to say, if I don't have a vertical knowledge, then I will sound very empty. And the other party that I'm going to talk to, in a very few minutes, he or she will find out that I'm not really knowledgeable about it. I'm just trying to blubber around. I'm trying to beat around the bush or giving some kind of a sales talk or whatever. So that's why communication is very important. Sometimes it is better not to say it if we don't know what we are going to talk about. Maybe it is better that, I'll need more time to talk about this meeting and I'm not ready for it. Still, that is better rather than just spending 1 hour time but not really have any gist about that particular communication.
So
So going
Ajaz,
back to that,
one question comes to my mind since I'm running the company for 17 years. So what happened when you are dealing with US client, they would probably give you some information over chat or email, right? And then you have to go to the meeting and schedule. So what you are saying that we should go ahead and arrange a pre-meeting, right, with your team member who are domain expert, ask yourself the question, and then go to the client meeting. Am I right?
plus a little bit. When if it's a new client, you need to know who they are, who you are talking to, what kind of a position that particular person is, and is it the decision maker. Otherwise, you might spend a lot of your time giving information to somebody who could be just a lower level person and he'll pass it on to somebody. And you lose your message in lost in translation. So the right thing is to preparation is who are you going to talk to? What is the topic? And is it the right person that you should do? That's a preparation of the meeting. And then get to know about that company. In America, it's very easy to find out who they are. And there are many techniques to figure out, is it the right company? For example, I'll give you an example. If it's a company that doesn't have a physical address, they have a phone number, they're only communicating via email, that should trigger something. And then you can check whether that particular company is registered in a particular state, or is it really a legitimate business. People have, there are many ways. And if you go to their website, and maybe you have talking to somebody with a very impressive sales communication, but you go to their website, you find out it is done by a paid template or a free template somewhere, right? Then that should trigger a bell that what kind of a company that is. So knowing the company, knowing exactly what you're going to talk about, and I'm sure you'll filter those things out. Then about that particular topic of what you're going to talk about is the preparation. That's what I meant. That internally you need to have a mindset. It doesn't always have to be formal, but form some kind of a strategy of what is going to happen. Because if you can finish a meeting briefly, what they call brief is the soul of wit. You need to be precise, you need to be brief, don't waste your time, and just say it. That for example, if you're soliciting business, say what you're really looking for. That we are a company, we have this product, and this is what we do. This is the purpose of our meeting, rather than giving a whole bunch of other things that wasting people's time. So that's what I meant by being prepared for any meeting.
That's very good point, and I'm sure those who are listening they will understand that why they are not getting clients sometime or can not close the deal, preparing for the meeting. Okay, let's go to the second topic. I think it's very important. Second
That is
part of it, right?
interesting because I am seeing noticing it, especially in the communication. You can say in part of it also, and this is common. This is nothing wrong with it because we were taught in a different way in other countries. In our when we were taught in English in our country versus how it is being taught in other countries like in America or other ways. The pronunciation, and especially there are three letters that we sometimes overemphasize, which is the T and the R and the P, because we tend to put a lot of emphasis on T. Instead of saying T, we call T, hotel, motel. But sometimes when we say that, maybe we know what we are saying, but the person who's listening, because of the way that they're trained to, they may not really understand what we are saying. And it's kind of sometimes embarrassing when they said, sorry, what did you say? It is sometimes embarrassing because you need to repeat that. Plus also the thing that I was taught in school, we speak very fast. We have a tendency to speak very quickly. It's probably because of the language or the way that we talk. So sometimes it may be better to practice that a little bit of how we say things. How do we pronounce our words? Whether the other person can understand what we're saying, especially since we're talking different language. And it is better to practice ahead of time. And also, whoever is going to be in the meeting, pick out the person who's going to say, rather than allowing everybody to chime in or join in. they might not really send the right message to the client. Especially for a client, it is better to have some kind of a spokesperson, some kind of a person who's well aware of what's going on and how they're going to craft the message. Because remember, this is about sales. This is about generating revenue and being sound technically competent, right? I mean, we want to get more business done. So we want to sound that we know what we're talking about. And I will touch the second one, third one in the same breath, which is the being culturally sensitive. When we talk to American company, and maybe other companies also, we need to kind of somewhat understand their culture. I mean, at least to a certain extent, to know the anecdotes, to know, what is, who am I talking to? What is the timing going on? What kind of a news that is happening in that country? And be sensitive about it. Like, for example, if somebody, without really knowing, make a passing comment about a political person, right? Whether it's a Democrat or Republican or something that is going on in America, without really knowing the cultural sensitivity, like Black Lives Matter. Make a point. Oh yeah, in your country you have all these things going on with the Black Lives Matter. The person that we are saying, maybe this is just to show them, hey, I know what's going on in America, but this is a business meeting. So being culturally sensitive, it makes big difference of how to be professional, how to stay away from those minefields, not to get into culturally sensitive topics, and keep things in a concise manner so that we don't get into things that we don't understand. So, I mean, in same thing in Bangladesh, if somebody comes in and talk about Bangladesh, and if they get into the political or religious matter, we will find out that what is this person talking about? Why is he talking about things that he doesn't understand, right? So we might get kind of not very interested. So that's what I mean, that if you really want to do business with America, and this is valid for any other countries, it is better to know about that country, and you don't have to live here. You can pick that information from any place, just to get to know their culture and to understand a little bit and things like that. But on the same token, if it is a Super Bowl, and if somebody won, or NBA championship, they won just the night before, you might talk about that a little bit. Hey, I heard that Bucks won the NBA championship. How was the game? Provided it gets to that level, that gives a feeling that they know that, okay, this company is kind of no relation. Informal tips to about communication, because communication cannot be very well structured and only be rigid. It's a free flow. It's a live media. Things can change based on the feedback from the client. Things can change, and I'm not talking about email communication. When I say communication, verbal communication, meeting, and things like that, business meetings, things like that.
So I have one question here. So what I have noticed that when a client join on a call, like we have, even in our company, we have a practice that somebody from business development join, where myself or someone whom we train to give an introduction, like especially the fast call, right? And talk about quickly a scripted message, right? Now, that is one side. When you talk about pronunciation, like sometime what I have noticed in Bangladesh, that there is a tendency that I'm the CEO, even though I cannot communicate well, I will go there and talk. And then you make a fool out of yourself representing a company who is very good. There are other people could be there who are very good. Put them on that position. They can just introduce you. My CEO has joined and answer some question. But some people have good way of communicating. And it could be a junior person. That one side. Other side, I also want to emphasize here that when you are going to a software development project, you need to bring developer. There is a tendency that I'm in control. I'm not going to share information to my developer, but then you are losing the client, because client is like, oh, I don't want to talk to a business person. I want to get a technical answer. So both these things, whether, how do you see? I know that you are in a different field, but like, what is your opinion on these two matters?
Without a question. I mean, if you are going to talk to a software company, not just you need to understand the technical part of it. You need to understand the market trend. You need to have some idea what's going on. Not necessarily you need to learn the coding, but the terminology of the market trend, the business, you need to have a bit of a little bit more knowledge, without a question about it. And what you mentioned about, and I already touched about a spokesperson. You pick out certain people within the team also, not just the CEO. within the team there may be a person, and that person may not be a team member. I mean, that person may not be a team lead, but a team member who may speak well, right? I mean, that person should be given the responsibility to communicate, and there should not be any ego about it. I mean, I know a lot of big industries that I go to different presentations. The chairman, or is mostly the owner of the company. Probably he is the person who built the company, right? So he is the owner of the company, and their young generation executives are very impressive. But as soon as he opens the mouth, the entire thing goes down the drain, because you don't really know, because he's probably have no clue where he is at. He was just being presented to the particular meeting for a few minutes, so he doesn't know. So it is better to have somebody that, okay, I'm going to allow my person to talk about, and if there is something else, you let me know in a brief manner. So going back to communication, the senior executives or whoever is going to do business needs to pay attention to communication. Communication should not be treated as automatic, that okay, since we can speak, anybody can communicate. No, that is not the case. Communication needs to be something that needs to be pre-thought about, how we are going to present, just like the presentation that you worked on. It's not just you wrote it in one go. I mean, it went into many iteration and you prepared something. Same thing, communication, there are people who are trained to communicate. That's why in large company they have a communication officer, PRO, they call public relations officer. So you don't, a small company doesn't always have to have a PRO, but you need to pay attention to communication. Otherwise, the owner of the company will not understand why they're not getting business. They're very good in technically savvy, they have a lot of things, but they're not getting business. Maybe there is a lost in translation, the way it is being communicated in different business meetings. The person who's talking, the person who's making the call, the person who's trying to get the business is not creating the same impression that the company deserves. So I
Hmm.
think you get my point, right?
No,
That the
thank you.
owner needs to pay attention to communication. You should not be thought this is just an automatic process. That's what I meant.
No, thank you. Azad, we could talk rest of the day about this. It's a large topic, and I would probably welcome you back later in more detailed discussion. We only had 20 minutes. Thank you for your time. How do people contact you? If somebody wants to get connect, I mean, is LinkedIn the best way?
Yes, I'm in LinkedIn, but LinkedIn in Bangladesh doesn't work the way that it works in America. But you have my email. If somebody have any question, they're more than welcome to talk to me and through email. I'm mostly available through email and WhatsApp. And the last but not least, I know I have only 30 seconds to mention communication. One of the best way to get traction in communication is having a role play, having some kind of a people in a role play, then you get a most mileage out of it. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I wish you good luck, fantastic, and have a discussion. So
Thank you. Thank you.